Hi everybody! In this video, I'm going to be going through the notes for lesson 8.14, which is about writing the equation of a line in point-slope form. Now, we need to learn how to do this because not every line has a nice y-intercept. Sometimes the y-intercept is a decimal or something that is difficult to figure out. So we use this type of equation when there is not a nice y-intercept. As a matter of fact, this equation works even when there is a nice y-intercept. It's just easier to use y equals mx plus b for those. This equation is particularly helpful when there is not a nice y-intercept. So in order to write this equation, we need to remember that there are two key features that are required to be able to fill in these numbers. We need to have a point and we need to have a slope. Now my point has two pieces. The x coordinate is going to be the first number from my point. And that number is always the opposite of the number that you see. So when you're filling this number into the parentheses, you always use the opposite of the number you see. The y coordinate of my point is the first number that I fill into the equation. The y goes right next to the y that's at the beginning of the problem. And the x goes right next to the x that's at the parentheses. The third number that we need is the slope. And your slope is going to go in the middle of the equation. Your slope is still going to be rise over run or the y pattern divided by the x pattern. Let's practice finding a point and finding a slope and then writing the equation. So, if I give you a table, the first thing you're going to do is find a point. Now, the good news is we don't need to look for any particular point here. Any point in this table will work for us. I'm going to decide that I'm going to use the first point in the table. So I'm going to copy down that point over here. My point is going to be 5, 10. Then I also need to find my slope. My slope is going to be my y pattern, which is plus 8, divided by my x pattern, which is plus 2. So I'm going to have 8 divided by 2, which if I type that into my calculator simplifies to a 4. Now we're going to write our point-slope form. Our point-slope form is y equals y1 plus m parentheses x minus x1. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to replace the y1 with the y from my point. So y goes next to y. That means I'm going to put the 10 here. Then I'm going to replace the m with the m that I calculated for my slope, which in this case is a positive 4, so I'm going to write plus 4. Then I'm going to have parentheses with x, and inside of the parentheses next to the x, I'm going to put the x number that I had from my point, but it's going to be the opposite. So even though my original number was a positive 5, I'm going to write a minus 5 here. Now, you did not need to use the first point. Different points can give us different equations for the same line. As long as you put the numbers into the equation in the right spot, it doesn't matter what point you use. So let's try a couple more examples. For problem number 1, it says write the equation of the line that goes through this point with a slope of 2. So in the directions here, they are giving us our two key features. The point is 5, negative 3, and the slope is 2. Now my equation is going to be y equals y1 plus m parentheses x minus x1. What I'm going to do now is replace the letters with numbers. y1 is my y, so my -3 will go first. M is my slope, which I calculated, so 2 will go next. Then we have parentheses x, and x1 is my x, but remember, it's always the opposite. So I'm going to put, instead of a +5 here, I'm going to put a -5 inside the parentheses. And this is my answer. Next, for problem number 2, in the directions, they give me 2 points. So before I can do anything, I'm going to need to make a little mini table so that I can find my slope. My mini table will look like this. The first point, -8, -5, will go first in the table, and then the -2, -1 will go second. Now my key features are still going to be a point and a slope. My slope, I need to look at the pattern. To go from -5 to -1, I need to add 4. To go from -8 to -2, I need to add 6. So my slope will be 4 over 6, which if I type that into my calculator, simplifies to 2 over 3. For my point, I have 2 options from the directions. I like to just go with the first one, -8 and -5. Next, I'm going to write down my equation. Y equals y1 plus m parentheses x minus x1. Now in this case, my y1 will be -5 plus my m will be my slope that I calculated. Parentheses x minus, and my x1 will be my -8. But remember, x is always the opposite. So instead of -8, I'm going to write +8 in my equation. And this is my answer. Let's do a couple more examples. So next, I want to look at an example where I give you a table. Again, I need to identify the point and the slope. To find the slope, I'm going to find the pattern in the table. To go from -6 to 0, I need to add 6. To go from 8 to 10, I need to add 2. That means that my slope will be my y pattern divided by my x pattern, which is just 3. For my point, I can use any point from the table. I like to always go with the first one. So my point will be 8, -6. Now my equation is y equals y1 plus m parentheses x minus x1. When I write my equation with my numbers filled in, y1 goes first. So that's going to be -6. Plus, my slope goes second. So that's going to be a +3. And then parentheses x, and then my x1, which is 8. But again, I need it to be the opposite. So I'm going to make that a -8. And this is my answer. Finally, let's look at an example where I give you a graph. Before we can do anything, I'm going to identify some nice points on the graph. I see one here, here, and here. You'll also notice that this graph does not have a nice y-intercept. If it did, y equals mx plus b would probably be easier, but it does not have a nice y-intercept, so that is not an option. Instead, we need to write the equation of this line by finding a point and a slope. To find the slope, I'm going to do my rise and my run. So I'm going to start from the left side of the graph. In order to get to the next point, I would need to go up 3 and right 2. Now I need a point. Now on this graph, I can use any of the points, but I'm going to go with the one all the way to the left. That point is the point -3, -3. So I'm going to fill those numbers in this point right here. Now I'm going to write down my formula. Y equals y1 plus m parentheses x minus x1. My y1 will be -3. And my m will be my slope that I calculated, which in this case is going to be 3 over 2, parentheses x, and then my x will be my opposite of my x in my point, which is going to be a +3. And that's it. That's the equation of my line. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching. Good luck on your practice, and let me know when you're ready for your review.